Well, this is where I think we were born here, in the Yamba. And this is what's left of it now, the Yamba. All this rubble.
Well, we expect to see something still standing, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Head due west across billiard table grazing lands, deep into the black soil plains of southern Queensland, and sooner or later you strike Cunnamulla. It's a typical outback town with some of the finest sheep and beef cattle in Queensland. It's a prosperous town and a proud town. On the outskirts of town, hard alongside the local cemetery, there's something Cunnamulla is not altogether proud of. Something that townsfolk, at least some of them, would sooner forget. Aboriginal fringe dwellings like these have become an all too familiar sight. With jocular contempt, locals refer to this as Hollywood. Here, in shanties of wood and scrap iron, live about 150 Aborigines and their families. They've occupied this camping reserve for the past 30 years.
Mum told us where we lived when we were small, behind the cemetery, down on the bottom camp. We all had a share in one big tin shed, about 4 or 5 families in one. There was a lot of children and elders.
Home is about the size of an average garage. Overcrowding occurs in many of the shanties. The roof leaks, the walls are riddled with holes, and there's little means of protection against extremes of cold and heat. It has no running water, no lavatory or bath, no electric light.
I've never seen that. Yeah. To actually live there. And I think that Mum was there with us children. I know she did her best. But to live like that, you wouldn't expect that here in Australia. You know?
You think you wouldn't?
It would have been hard on Mum.
In this camp under a tin roof in February last year, an Aboriginal baby was born. Her name, Evelyn Young. Evelyn died only 4 months after she was born. She became critically ill on a winter's night last year. Her mother, Mrs. Nancy Young, who has 8 other children, carried her through bushland scrub to seek medical help at the local hospital a mile from the camp. It was 1 a.m. when Evelyn was admitted to hospital. Nurses found she was bruised about the body and in a dirty state. The child's condition was regarded as not serious enough to need a doctor's immediate attention.
Oh my God.
Evelyn's condition got worse, and 2 days later she died.
That's just sickening. She wasn't sick enough for him. If they knew the child was that sick, why didn't they tend to her straight away? Why wait? Because she's Aboriginal. I'll get straight to it. She's Aboriginal. Now, if it was some other child, you know, a white child, oh, yeah, straight in there and just straight in the bed there.
At Cunnamulla police station, Mrs. Young was subsequently charged with having unlawfully killed her baby. The indictment alleged she'd neglected her child and failed to provide adequate food and seek adequate medical attention. Mrs. Young was placed in custody to await trial. She remained behind bars without bail for 3 months before she was released to look after her children pending the trial.
The prison cell where she was, locked up. That's filthy. You know, it's worse than a dog living in that shit, you know? Well, it's time to retrieve and be done with it. Sickening.
I'm just thinking of Mum, her emotions, you know, what she's going through. You know, how she's feeling.
Yes.
Being locked up like that.
For this morning, inside this courthouse, an Aboriginal woman is to stand trial for the manslaughter of her 4.5-month-old baby daughter. The all-male jury in this manslaughter trial seemed a highly attentive lot, and a very hungry group as well. As each lunch break came in the 3-day trial, they headed off down Roma's main street in a bunch for a free meal at a local hotel.
At her trial, there was conflicting medical evidence about whether the baby died from the effects of malnutrition or whether a possible inbuilt vitamin deficiency was responsible for her death. Evidence was also given that no doctor examined the baby until 8 hours after she was admitted to hospital. The prosecution claimed the baby's condition must have been apparent to Mrs. Young well before she took it to the hospital. Mrs. Young's defence counsel pointed out that she was separated from her husband, had only child endowment and a few dollars a week to buy food for her family.
How can it be neglected? If she neglected, she wouldn't have took it to the hospital in the first place. Where's the neglect there? I mean, she walked that many miles just to get to the hospital. Go to the hospital and told to go back home. Where's the neglect there? Where's the doctors? Where's the, nurses, whatever? Why couldn't they walk out and be a helping hand to my mother with our sister?
Nancy Young was found guilty of manslaughter and sentenced to 3 years hard labour, with a suspension of her sentence after 9 months. Subsequently, a retrial dismissed the charges against her and one wrong was put right.
But Mum told us all about it when we grew up to as a teenager. She sat us down and told us all about it. She and I went to jail for... They put me up for murder, and I said, what murder? I didn't even know that I had a sister. She said, yeah, well, I got convicted over something I'd never done wrong.
We were told our mother didn't want us. That's why we were put in her home. And I ended up hating. Yes. So anger took over me. Yeah. Used to get into a lot of fights, trying to get that anger out of me, saying, oh, my own mother didn't want me, and, just threw us away. Well, I hadn't had contact with Mum at all when I was growing up. The only time I met is when I actually met my sisters. Yeah, that's when I was 16.
When we was in the home, there was always a lot of other Aboriginal children who was taken from their parents too. Well, I felt comfortable around my own colour, because he was get picked on all the time when he was at school. Didn't want people to show up in their face, oh, look at you, you niggers, look at you abos.
Evelyn's resting place, a hump of sun-baked mulga soil, is but one grave of several hundred Aboriginal children who die every year throughout Australia. This bouquet of wild flowers was Evelyn's only remembrance. That and one stark unanswered question. In the years ahead, how many more Aboriginal babies like Evelyn will die needlessly in Australia?
Now that Mum's passed, she is over here resting in peace now. Yeah, she had all us kids.
Full circle it is.
And we've all sort of come back home as well.
Well, this is home. To me, it's home.